Hi Year 10, it's Mrs. Brooks and today we're completing a lesson on planning your speech. So grab yourself something to write with and write on and get today's title, which is Planning Your Speech, and the learning objective, which is to understand how to use research effectively and use planning to ensure a logically sequenced speech. Keywords today are content, order and impact. So pause the video now and make yourself the date and learning objective and keywords, please. By the end of today's lesson, you will have created a plan for your speech, paragraph by paragraph, and you'll have identified areas of your speech that need more research. So you should already have done some research, but this will help you to hone in on some more areas that need developing. So this half term, you are preparing for your spoken language assessment. This goes alongside your GCSE English language, and it's a separate task that you will either get a pass, a merit, or a distinction. So to do this, you need to create and deliver a speech that lasts between 3 and 5 minutes. That speech will be given in front of your class teacher, and a number of students will need to be present to listen to your speech and to ask you questions. That could be the whole class, or if you prefer, then we can organise this for a small group of your friends or classmates that you want to work with. So we're doing this preparation. It's also going to help you because one of the tasks in the English language paper 2 is a piece of writing in section B, which could be a speech. So preparing for this now will also help you prepare for language paper 2. Let's have a look at our keywords for today. And contents, which is the information, what your speech is going to be about. So you've already chosen your topic, and we're now going to make sure that your content is clear and accurate and well researched. I'm going to think about the order. I'm going to give you a paragraph plan today, and you may want to switch the order around to suit you. Absolutely fine as well. And then we're thinking, of course, about impact. So the effect that this is going to have on your audience, who will be your teacher and your classmates. We're going to assess you on the following things. We're going to check your presentation skills in a formal setting. You're going to also be tested on how you can respond to questions and feedback that you get, and how you use standard English when you're speaking. So remember, this has got to be a formal speech rather than as if you were having a chat with your classmates. The different criteria that we've got here for pass, merit and distinction will help you think about where your speech is going and whether it's going to hit the different targets that you want. So if you're aiming for a pass, then it's going to be straightforward information, ideas and feelings, and you're going to make an attempt to organise and structure this. If you want a merit, then your ideas will be more challenging, and you will be using a range of vocabulary, and also your structure is going to be a little bit more sophisticated and help your audience to engage fully with your topic. And finally, if you're going for the top marks and the distinction, then it's going to be a sophisticated speech where your ideas and your vocabulary are much more engaging, higher level. Also, you're going to use a range of strategies to engage your audience. So the sections at the bottom of here are more to do with speaking and listening. So we'll come back onto that when we get ready for those actual speaking and listening tasks. At the moment, we're focusing on your content and your organisation and the impact that this will have. So what have you done so far? So far you have chosen your topic of which discrimination topic you would like to present on. You've done some research into that. You've also learnt about effective techniques for writing speeches, and you should have already written your introduction, and that should have been sent to your teacher for marking. So what are effective techniques for speech writing? So the key ones that we're looking for are that your speech should be memorable, it should be engaging, and you should have employed a range of techniques, DeForester techniques, etc. And what's coming up today? So today we're going to bring that research together. I'm going to show you what research you could look for. You're also going to plan and order your ideas today. So you'll have a paragraph plan, 4 paragraphs that I want you to arrange. And then in future lessons over the next couple of weeks or so, then you're going to be writing each of those paragraphs. So today is about planning, making sure that you've got your research sorted and ordering your ideas. Just a reminder of the DeForester techniques, really important. I would make sure that I've always got that list by my side when I'm planning and writing, and maybe I would tick off different techniques that I'd used, make sure that I'm not just using the same technique over and over because that will become boring. So I would have that there as a checklist. I would also go back to my booklet and look at task 1 and remind myself of the different techniques that I'd already planned I would use in my speech. So here we've got some DeForester techniques, but we've also got the case study, which is where you might have researched and found a news article about whatever discrimination you're talking about. We talked as well about imperatives, so those bossy verbs where you're asking your listeners to take action. And you should have from your research found statistics, etc. So have a look back at this. This is going to be really important. Again, I'd be using this as a checklist, tick list to make sure that I've included these techniques in my speech, not put them all in one paragraph and then just waffled for the rest, but that I've spread them evenly to ensure that there's engagement for my listeners. Okay, research. Have you got enough? So you will have done some research into your discrimination already, but you need to ask yourself the questions that are on this slide and make notes about each of these questions, because this is going to feed into your paragraphs that you're going to be writing. So I would make a note of the questions here and then check that I've got the research. And if I haven't got enough research, then I would use those as starting points for going on and finding out the information ready to write my speech. So bullet point 1, how many people are affected by this kind of discrimination? I'd like you to try and focus your research on the UK. You will find a lot of statistics say about how this type of discrimination appears in America, but try to make it UK based, just because it will help your listeners to engage with your topic. If you can't find UK statistics, then you could always adapt the US statistics that you might have found. Think about the typical behaviours of people who discriminate towards this group. So what do people do if they are racist or sexist or ageist? Think about the typical types of behaviours, so you would need to research that. Then think about how people are impacted by this discrimination. So that's going to follow on from your previous research. Then have a look at news articles. So you might want to look at, say, The Guardian or The Times. Have a look maybe if there's something in the local area, so maybe Manchester Evening News, and do a a research into your particular topic and see if there's somebody local who's been affected by this, maybe somebody high profile in our area that you could talk about. Then moving on to your own personal experience, there must be something that's helped you to decide on this particular topic. So why is it important to you? And that goes into your final bullet point as well. Why have you chosen this type of discrimination? So have you had personal experience of it? And then why do you feel passionate about it? You can have a look at the speeches that we've guided you to in previous lessons. You can go onto YouTube and search for those, or look for TED Talks. And of course, you can always look at Prince EA. He's got loads of speeches that will be quite useful and will remind you of those techniques that we'd like you to include. I want you to pause the video now and copy down this basic paragraph plan. So get yourself a pen ready and copy down the paragraph plan. Paragraph 1 is where you're going to outline your general reasons for choosing this topic. Paragraph 2, you're going to include a personal anecdote or short story about this type of discrimination. Paragraph 3 is going to be a case study or a news story about this type of discrimination. And paragraph 4 is where you're going to describe an ideal world or society where this type of discrimination doesn't exist. So pause video now, copy down this basic paragraph plan, and then I'm going to go through each paragraph and give you some ideas for research and also some ideas of techniques that you could include in these paragraphs. Let's have a look at paragraph 1, your general reasons for choosing this topic. So this comes back to our earlier slide where we asked, why do you feel so strongly about this? Why have you chosen this topic? Really helpful to engage your audience straight away with why you've chosen a topic, what it means to you. At the bottom here, you can see we've got some research that you could do. How many people are affected by this kind of discrimination? Find some facts and statistics. As I said, try and make it UK-based. Even better if you can make it local to our community. That would be great. Some examples of things that you might include. So if yours was about sexism, then you might want to put in some statistics. You could include some repetition, and emotive language is going to be something that comes up in every paragraph. We want your feelings to be expressed clearly and for your listeners to understand those feelings. So there's some examples there that you could have a look at if you were doing, for example, sexism. So you'd need to change that if you're doing a different form of discrimination. It just gives you some ideas of your reasons for choosing your topic and some techniques that you could include in this particular paragraph. Moving on to paragraph 2, this is where you're going to write about your personal anecdote, which is just a short story, something that's happened to you or something that you've heard of that you know about. In this case, you're going to find out maybe has someone experienced this that you know, or is it your personal experience? Then you're going to make notes about that. You might want to include a quote, and again you can back this up with some statistics of where do you fit in this statistic. Are you one in 85% of people who've experienced this form of discrimination, for example? Now, if you're choosing someone else's anecdote, someone else's personal story, then you need to be careful and think about keeping them anonymous if that's what they would prefer. If they're happy to be included in your speech and to be name checked in that, then that's okay, but you must have permission before you do that. Please do not name check any other students or anyone else without their permission. You could say a friend of mine or someone I know or a member of my family, but please only use names and quote them directly if you've got permission. So some examples again of things that you might have experienced if you were a victim of sexism. And again, we've got a list here of techniques that you can use. You could use some rhetorical questions, you can use emotive language. Again, we've got lots of statistics in here. So those are ideas that you could include in paragraph 2. Paragraph 3 is a case study or a news story. So this is where you've widened your net a bit, and rather than it being personal to you, somebody else's life who's been impacted by this type of discrimination. So you're going to include some key facts about the story, where you got your information from, what happened, and give your personal opinion on this. So how you felt when you read this story or heard about this particular news article. So it's a really nice juicy paragraph that you can research in detail, find a really famous example or a range of examples and give your own opinion about how you feel, and a great chance to use that emotive language again in here. So this is where you're going to have to do some deep research, finding a particular person, maybe a celebrity, a sports star, somebody in the local community who's been affected, and a nice juicy paragraph that you can write there. Again, going back to an example, if you were writing about sexism, when they were putting women on a woman on a British banknote, then there was quite a lot of backlash, outrage, and death threats. So you'd have to research that in detail if that was the kind of thing that you wanted to include. You could do some research into laws that have been passed about equal rights for men and women. And again, some techniques that you could include, triples, and as ever, some emotive language to make your feelings clear about this particular topic. So lots of research needed and some ideas there for how you could include them. Finally, paragraph 4. This is your hopes for the future. This is the world being a better place without this type of discrimination. So how it would be different. Think back to Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech where he had a dream. You can use those techniques in here. So is there a country or a community where they don't have a problem with this type of discrimination? Why? Can you do some research into how celebrities feel about this and maybe look at their speeches on YouTube about how they feel about your particular topic and magpie some ideas from them about a world or a society without this form of discrimination. So got some techniques on here that you can use. Again, emotive language, some rhetorical questions, and this is where you're going to build in your imperatives, this call for action, helping your listeners to feel empowered to change the world. Some ideas on this slide about sexism again. Men talk openly and can get support. Imagine a world where boys grew up comfortable enough to show their emotions. Imagine a world where women are safer. Imagine a world where everyone was paid equally for doing the same job. And again, put your own personal opinion in. Okay, going back to our key words. So, have you made sure that your speech is clear, your contents? Will your reader fully understand what form of discrimination you're talking about? And will they be able to pick out your key points and ideas, and will they feel empowered to help you? Think about your order. So I've given you a paragraph plan an order? Do you want to mix that up? Do you want to change it? Would it be more powerful, do you think, to talk about the ideal world first and then explain why that's not happening now? And think about the effect that it's going to have on your audience, or which is your classmates. Are you creating the right effect and tone? What do I want you to do today? So the brilliant thing about GCSE English is that you can aim for the highest possible marks. Now, if you're aiming for a pass, then here are some of the things that you'll need to do. And I'm going to give you some tips on how to aim higher in the next slide. So make sure that you've got your paragraph plan written out. So you can copy down my paragraph plan from earlier and then add some notes onto that. All you need to do today is to bullet point the information that you're going to be needing for each of those paragraphs. Not asking you to write each paragraph, just simply to make sure that you have a plan and that you have bullet points, and then that you start to do the research that you need to be able to write each of those paragraphs in the lessons to come. Check your De Forester techniques. As you're thinking about each paragraph and making your bullet points, then tick off the ideas or create a list of techniques that you're going to use in each paragraph. So I've given you some ideas of techniques that you could include. If you think that statistics would work better in a different one, then please make a note of which techniques that you're going to use. Make sure that you're spreading those techniques out evenly across the speech. And then finally, check out a thesaurus either online, or if you happen to have one in your house, then see if there's any of the vocabulary that you can improve. We don't want to make it too fancy so that your listeners don't understand what you're talking about, but just see if you can use a thesaurus. That will really help you if you're going to use some triples. So think of the first word that you'd like to use and then look in the thesaurus and see if you could find some more words that would help you to create a triple. As I said, if you're going to aim higher, then you're going to do all of the things for a pass, and you're going to do these things. Maybe change the order. As I said, you might want to start with a case study. You might want to start with an ideal world. So maybe change the order around to make it more effective. When you've got your plan, then you need to do more research into other speeches. So you can look at Miss Robinson's lesson. She's got some sophisticated language techniques as well that you could use. You can go and check out some of the links to the YouTube videos of different speeches. So do some more research. That will help you. And finally, are you meeting the success criteria? So remember at the beginning of the lesson, we talked about making your speeches memorable, engaging, and using a wide range of language devices. And from today's lesson, you should have worked out how to structure your speech. Coming up on Friday, you're going to complete your plan and make sure that you've got all the research that you need. You will have submitted your introduction. So if you've got that in on time, then on Friday, you will probably be responding to the feedback that your teacher has given you. And there won't be a video lesson on Friday. It will be a case of either completing the research and planning, responding to the feedback, or if you're a bit behind, making sure that your introduction is done and sent in so that you can get on with planning, completing research, and then responding to the feedback that your teacher gives you as soon as it's sent back to you. And then on Wednesday of next week, you're going to have a video lesson on writing out your paragraphs. So there's going to be some example paragraphs to help you, and we're going to think about actually writing our speech in full then. Okay, If you've got any questions, then obviously send an email, ask, check out the other videos on the YouTube channels as well to make sure that you've got lots of information. Look back at your notes, look back in your task book as well. Okay, bye for now.